Well, ladies and gentlemen, we do have a massive swath of polls to get to, different data. Some of it good for Harris, some of it good for Trump. This first thing I'm going to be looking at, I'm very surprised by these numbers. Decision Desk HQ comes out and says in Nevada, based off of the four recent polls, Trump is up by almost 9. Now, I might have to start paying more attention to Decision Desk because I think a lot of these polls, this is kind of weird because it says Trump is only up by 3, but like look at these recent ones Harris by 2. That's the poll we're going to talk about, the Bloomberg. But like Trump plus 10, I don't think I guess that's from, yeah, so these numbers are, I mean, I don't know why you would tweet that out. They only have one poll since Harris had announced that she was, or it had been announced since Harris was, yeah, so I would disregard that. That's not a good tweet. You should not be tweeting that out if 3 of your polls are pre-Harris being announced the candidate. But we do have more polls. This is just general election with leans. So these are good numbers for Trump. Anytime Trump is close or even in the lead when it comes to the general, it's good considering his propensity to overperform. And also the Republicans, especially now, already having Florida and Ohio, you don't need to win the popular vote. You can lose the popular vote by 5 or 6 points and still easily win the election just based off of where the Electoral College is at this point for Republicans. But Trump plus 2 is amazing. You include RFK Jr., who's got 10%, which I would imagine is going to continue to go down. Trump still sitting plus 2 in terms of that. This is the pretty remarkable stuff in terms of Kamala Harris's post dropout. What does post dropout mean? Oh, Biden dropping out. That's worded a little bit weird, but you can see favorability over 50% according to a lot of these. You can see plus 9 in terms of favorability, minus 5 in terms of unfavorability, plus 7, minus 5, plus 8, minus 4, plus 11, minus 6. Obviously, a lot of this has to, I mean, this is remarkable. It is every single poll, and the Democrats galvanizing around Harris. She has not done a single thing in terms of actually doing something good that would cause her approval rating to go up, other than the media telling liberals she's good, go vote for her. She's going to save democracy by not being even elected within her own primary, but she'll be the savior of democracy. CNN still has her at only a 39, and that was plus 7. But you can see pre-dropout, I mean, she was the worst VP, and now things have changed dramatically. I would expect a correction again. Now, she's not going to have the same, I don't think, crazy low numbers that she had being the new nominee because she's got all the support behind her, but we're seeing an elevated, almost overinflated reaction with these. There's no way she's got a more favorable approval, like where it's 53, 54. I would imagine she's like -5 or -6 at least, considering she was about minus 13 or minus 14 before all of this was announced. But it does just go to show you, and this really isn't the end all be all, but this is kind of the problem that we were talking about in comparison to Biden. We were looking at Biden, we were looking at his approval rating and saying there's just no possible way he can win this election. It's just too bad of an approval rating, and I kept saying that, and then obviously got so bad to the point where they had to blackmail him and move on from him. But with Harris, these numbers are a little bit concerning because now you can see a potential path. Although I will say, in terms of this, I would expect a correction. It's just very annoying considering she's done nothing. This is all the power of mainstream media over the Democrats. The voter block there saying, and I guess maybe even some independent people, unless these numbers significantly correct to where they should be. This is unbelievable how much of an impact that mainstream media can have. Again, we could be looking at a little bit of an overinflation, but it is very annoying considering we were saying and developing the idea that Biden's approval rating was so horrible, and it was so horrible for basically ever. It's funny now that he's announced he's dropping out and not running for re-election. His approval rating has kind of improved a little bit. That's liberals, I guess, saying he's sacrificing, when in reality, no, he wanted to run. He said 10 times, he tweeted it out, I'm running. They had to blackmail him to get him out. But of course, liberals, they're just so lost, they don't even understand it. So the reason he's not running is because they blackmailed him, not because he doesn't want to. And now you've got Harris. I mean, look at this, plus 13. There's no way this holds. This is not organic at all. She didn't do a single thing. Like, I can understand Trump's approval rating going. This is the craziest thing. Trump didn't get this big of an approval rating, burst after he almost got assassinated where he put his fist up. That's how backwards America is. Something like that where it's so patriotic. It's amazing. Now being a patriot, it's racist and horrible. But Trump should have gotten plus 20 in terms of his approval rating after doing that and getting back up and saying fight. But it's Harris, all manufactured. You've got, some rapper shaking her ass now. That's going to help with the approval rating. Like, where are we at in terms of politics? It is unbelievable when it comes to that approval rating. I do like when they just throw in random states. So California, Harris plus 24. I think Biden won California maybe by 26, and he was polling right around the same thing. So it doesn't surprise me that she's over plus 20. So this is the big poll. I guess I should talk about it. The Bloomberg poll came out about 5 o'clock yesterday. People started freaking out. Yeah, when I saw this, Michigan Harris plus 11, that is crazy. I mean, to put it in perspective, if it was Harris plus 6, I would be like, wow, that's still ridiculous. But plus 11 is next level. People have been saying it's like that poll that came out in October for Wisconsin of 2020 where it had Trump down 17. I think that's an erroneous poll, obviously. I mean, you look at some of these other states, it could be a little bit concerning. It's got Harris leading Arizona. It's got Harris leading Wisconsin. It's got Harris leading Nevada. Now, they are very, very close. It's within the margin, tied in Georgia. And then this is the weird thing, Trump up 4 in Pennsylvania. How is that possible where there's a 15-point difference between Pennsylvania and Michigan? That would lead to the poll kind of being ridiculous or maybe some type of false sample taken, and then Trump up 2 in North Carolina. I would say that's a little bit, you'd like to see Trump up at least 4 or 5 there, but I do still think Trump should win North Carolina. But this poll, I know a lot of people have been trying to say, well, if Trump's up 4 in Pennsylvania, how is Harris, plus 11? Harris is not even close to plus 11. Michigan for sure is going to be a swing state. Sometimes these polls come out erroneous. It is what it is, but there's no way you can argue that Harris is plus 11 in Michigan and Trump is plus 4 in Pennsylvania. So, and then all these other polls, they're not great for Trump, but I would imagine this has to do with the hype that Harris has received recently. That would be my guess there. You've got a Democrat-funded poll coming out saying Trump's up 2 in Arizona, up 1 in Pennsylvania. So that's a Democrat internal. Do they have any other states? Georgia, Harris plus 1. They're trying to put Georgia back in play. They had a rally there yesterday. New Hampshire, Harris plus 4 with leans still plus 4. Kind of similar to the Biden-Trump polling. Although I think there were Democratic internals. Oh no, those were not internals. There was a New Hampshire poll that had Trump up, I think by 1 or at least tied. The Democratic internal polls had Trump up in New Jersey by like 0.5. And then also up in New Mexico. You guys remember when that was released? I guarantee you that was leaked by upper Democrats that wanted Biden out. That was like polls back in maybe early July, like around July 4th. I don't remember exactly. Here's a positive for Trump. Oregon general election. Who knows how legit this is? Harris plus 5. Undecided at 7%. You bring everyone in, it's still Harris plus 5. So those are very bullish numbers for Trump. If he actually lost Oregon by 5 points, I don't, just based off of, how liberal Oregon is, especially Portland, that would lend credence into, Trump easily winning this election. If you're going to lose Oregon by 5, do we really think he's going to lose the Rust Belt? I know they're 2 different areas in the country, but still, there's correlation there. If you keep it that close in Oregon, that is good news. I don't think Trump is going to win Oregon, but there have been other polls in Oregon that said Trump was very close with Biden. This is good news in terms of other polls if it is legitimate when you look at something like that, and that just came out recently. So those are major polls. I don't know if I have any other polls here. What I think I'm going to do is I am going to... Oh, yeah, Trump released a statement on Project 2025. President Trump's campaign has been very clear for over a year that Project 2025 has nothing to do with the campaign, did not speak for the campaign, and should not be associated with the campaign or the president in any way. Reports of Project 2025's demise would be greatly welcomed and should serve as a notice to anyone or any group trying to misrepresent their influence with President Trump and his campaign. It will not end well for you. So I got to be honest, what an ugly situation with Project 2025 here. Originally, I mean, the Democrats had this whole campaign, this whole thing against Project 2025 and how Trump was going to be a dictator and all this. And Trump did disavow it kind of lightly over Truth Social. And then, he came out a week ago, and I think he had 2 different rallies where he addressed it and called the people within Project 2025 just crazy, and it, it's really, really disavowing it. So this is kind of an ugly end here. And I guess it's good for Trump. I mean, liberals are still going to say, well, he's just saying that now because it was hurting him in the polls and he's going to just do it during. I mean, the idea where I had said before it was really a huge mainstream thing, or right when it started to become, the Project 2025, the way it's worded is very brutal. Like, it was just worded really badly. And it was almost like it was the Heritage. I know it's a Republican think tank, but that did not help Trump at all. Even if you're going to try and do policies like that, I know it's a widespread thing that you want to announce and it's going to be a change, but that's something you don't say before you get elected. Especially if you know, a lot of those things can't be done without control of both the House and the Senate. So there will be a lot that it just hurts Trump so much. It's something that probably can't even be done anyways based on our separation of powers. It's just not a good ideal thing. But when it comes to this, I guess this is what I was going to talk about. I'm going to have to fricking do this because this thing is just so annoying. Hold on. Let me turn on the ad blocker. I really don't want to. All right, turn on the ad blocker. So here it is. Michigan, Trump versus Harris. Yeah, so I will say, even when you bring in, I would consider it a massive outlier. There was an outlier, I remember. It was from Quinnipiac, Biden versus Trump. I don't know which state it was, but I think it was Pennsylvania. I can actually go back and look at it. I believe it was Pennsylvania. But right now they do have Harris +2 because of that Bloomberg outlier. That's just the aggregate average. Not that it's a big deal. I mean, look at Biden leading by 8 on July 31st, basically going into August. Clinton was up by 5.2. Obviously, Trump narrowed those margins significantly. He beat Hillary, even though he was trailing her by 5 points. And he was within like a point of beating Biden. I actually went back to rewatch some of that election night coverage, the CNN coverage. It was just crazy to see that. It was like 2 a.m. Trump had a lead of 56% to 42%. It's just crazy to me. But yeah, Biden had a much bigger lead there. And then let's just go through all the battleground states because I'm sure a lot of these have updated. Very good news here, even with that Bloomberg poll that seemingly is very slanted to the left. We do have Trump still maintaining a nice edge. Although I will say some of these polls, they are pre-Harris getting the huge bump. So with Real Clear, we're going to need to see an update here in terms of that. Obviously, Trump was enjoying a very nice lead over Harris, more so even than Biden. So some of these polls like Insider and PPP, they are maybe misrepresenting it slightly, but that still is good news for Trump. Nevada, do we have updated polls? I mean, what is with Real Clear just not putting in polls? It's very annoying. There's basically one poll since Harris was announced. Next, we do have Wisconsin. Wisconsin, basically a toss-up. There's been a few polls that have come out. Tie, Trump +1, Harris +2. It's a pure toss-up at this point for Wisconsin. You look at the history, Biden +5. Obviously, Trump outperformed that when he ended up losing Wisconsin by like less than a point. He ended up beating Hillary in Wisconsin. He was losing by 5 points there. So that is good news in terms of that. Michigan, I already looked over. Pennsylvania, I believe, is definitely looking good for Trump. Yeah, so Pennsylvania, and this is what I think they're going to do, guys. Unfortunately, I do think they are going to pick Josh Shapiro. Now, you might say, well, that's good news because of the whole Jewish thing. Guys, that's fringe alt-left shit. That's not the vast majority of Democrats. So I think strategically, if I was them, I would pick Shapiro because Pennsylvania is the most important swing state. And not just because of this recent polling, but there is anecdotal polling that suggests Trump is maintaining good support in Pennsylvania after the Harris switch, like recent polling that has Trump up, even that Bloomberg poll that was slanted seemingly to Harris, Trump was up by 4. Now, you could also say maybe that's erroneous, but just in general, for me, I think they're smart. Well, they could choose Mark Kelly, I don't know, but I just think their smartest option would be choosing would be choosing Shapiro to pair with Harris. But you do have Trump right now performing well in Pennsylvania. Moving on to North Carolina. I mean, there's just no polls. There are polls, but they just don't input them. North Carolina, I already looked at them, sorry. Georgia. So Georgia is a state they're going to try and say that Harris has a chance. The recent polls suggest it's very close. Obviously, with Biden, it was a lot different in terms of Georgia. I mean, Trump was maintaining a solid lead. These are very early polls. We're going to have to see more data, especially data within a week or two. I know they're going to argue, well, Harris will get more momentum with the DNC, but I'm talking about like the next week too when it starts wearing off. When we go to the actual electoral map, right now they do have Trump. If they were forced to predict it, Trump and Vance at 297, so basically at 300, and that is with that Michigan poll going, really taking Harris over the top in Michigan and giving her Michigan. So even if Harris gets Michigan, to me, the biggest state is Georgia. You have to take back Georgia. If you can take back Georgia and you can take Arizona, Nevada kind of becomes irrelevant because you've already got Florida and Ohio in the bag. Pennsylvania becomes huge. That's why I think they're picking Shapiro. And then you can, Wisconsin is obviously a state. I think Wisconsin might be the easiest state for Trump to win, depending on who they pick for VP for the Republicans. Michigan it's the dialogue around Michigan was Trump was doing very well against Biden in Michigan to the point where he was leading like 8 or 9 straight polls, and we were saying Michigan is looking better and better, and Wisconsin might be the closest in terms of that. But now that poll kind of throws a monkey wrench into it. But again, that's just one poll. At the end of the day, we're analyzing a very small amount of data here because we're still very early in terms of the switch from Biden to Harris. So we're going to need more time to pass mainly. But right now, real clear, even with the recent data that does give Harris in their predictive model Michigan, Trump is still almost at 300 electoral votes. And right now, the consensus is Trump is at around 60% chance to win. Harris is around 40% chance. So, and that is, again, with the situation where she's getting this massive artificial boost. I mean, even with her approval rating being this high, it is still a relatively easy Trump victory. Now, you could say, well, once more polls come out and they're closer, they're going to have to adjust some of these states and things like that. But at this point, I do not expect, based on the lack of a track record, the lack of winning any primary, the fact that she was installed, the fact that she is a horrible approval rating as VP, and she's done nothing, literally nothing, to change that. She was not awarded this opportunity to potentially be president. She was forced into it because Biden was so senile and so old. So I think once Americans, and I have faith, once Americans really take a step back from this, and that doesn't even talk about World War III and the Democrats' opinions of Russia and possibly elevating that situation, making it worse, depending on what happens with China and Taiwan, it's going to be very unstable. So that's not even talking about that. We just have to get people to understand that this is just a rapid reaction. Harris hasn't done a single thing other than just be up, mainstream media's ass for the last week and a half to try and push her. And all of just the fake stuff that they've got, white guys for Harris, what in the hell is going on? And they have to hire rappers now because she can't draw a rally. She's just got no brand nationally at all. And how could she? She's never actually ran a legitimate primary campaign. The only primary she was involved in, she dropped out before a single vote has even been cast. So she has literally no national draw. None. Where is her campaign for a primary? It doesn't exist. So I would say right now we need to relax when it comes to these polls, and I think these numbers will eventually adjust. And another thing to look at is kind of the aggregate betting model. As you can see, the betting odds right here, it's got all of the different ones, all of the odds. Trump ranging, it seems like, from 49. Wow, look at predicted. It's got Trump at 49, Harris at 45. Polymarket still has Trump with a 20% edge. A lot of these have Trump with a big edge. Trump at around 56, Harris at 39. And maybe we could see Trump at some point finding some stability around this range, hopefully keeping a nice sizable lead over Harris in terms of the betting. Not that it really matters all that much. I mean, we still have multiple months before the election, but at this point, it is just Trump and Harris. You've got Michelle Obama at 1%. You've got RFK at 1.4%. Oh, it's interesting that you can do this. And you can see RFK was at one point at 8%. I want to see where Vivek was. Yeah. Oh, that's Nikki Haley. I think Vivek at one point. Oh, I guess it doesn't even show it. But Buttigieg. Oh, this is Vivek. Yeah, he got to 8 points too at one point. I remember that. But yeah, Trump at this point, I would say, still looking very good. Still looking very good, certainly even with the recent onslaught and the weird polling we've seen in some states like Michigan. Either way, guys, that is going to do it for this video. Make sure you follow me on X. Link to that's always in the description.